This video is an extract from an interview where an art professional shares their top tips for artists. Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoy this video. Welcome everyone for this webinar with Paul Carey-Kent, who is a writer and curator.
Hello everybody, good to be here.
He is the visual arts editor for Seisma Magazine. His contributions also include regularly writing for Art Monthly, for FAD Magazine, for ArtLyst, and for many others where he showcases his knowledge of contemporary art. And on top of this, he's also curated 50 exhibitions. Do you want to tell us a bit about you and what you do and things I haven't covered in this introduction?
I'm based in the New Forest, which might be relevant. In fact, I'm retired, so I have the luxury of basically I do what I fancy doing, whatever I enjoy. I used to work in local government finance, but I was always interested in art. And even before I retired, I was seeing a lot of shows and curating and writing. But obviously, I've been able to do more in the last 6 years or so while I've been retired. So I suppose what I mostly do is look at a lot of exhibitions and art. Probably 1,000 shows a year, something like that, if I'm fully fit and not at the moment with a full-time job. Then I curate maybe 5 shows a year, something like that. And I write quite widely, including for catalogues and texts for exhibitions and things, as well as magazines. And I have a weekly column online for FAD Magazine and a monthly interview where I just choose an artist that I think's got an interesting show on at the moment, have a fairly substantial interview with them. So they're the kind of main art-related writing I do. You
mentioned that you had a prior career in the county council and in finance. How did you get started as an art writer and as a curator?
I was always actually interested in art, but went down an academic route from school. And so I was going to things, but then I was involved with a friend who was starting an art magazine. It was called Art World. And that ran from 2007 to 9. In fact, I can hold up visuals. This is issue 1 of Art World. If anyone remembers it, they might do. So this was a magazine which concentrated really on talking to artists. I liked the format in that you let the artist talk and showed images of it. And then that lasted 2 years. These things tend to be fairly short run, but that was it. I enjoyed writing for it and being involved in it. And so when that stopped, I started writing for other places, initially for Saatchi's website. I did for some years a collection of 10 shows to see per month there. And I started my blog, which was associated with that. And then things come and go to some extent, but I've carried on writing. And then in 2012, an artist friend said, would you like to curate my show? So I said, yeah, that sounds interesting. I did that. It wasn't a very glamorous show. It was in a factory at the end of her road. But then I went on to curate another show on a freelance basis of lots of different galleries. They just arises out of conversations. So part of the thing of going to lots of shows is you meet gallerists and you're present when things come up. And every now and again, maybe there's a show we can do together. That's how those things tend to generate.
And people also, after a while, got to know the magazine, got to know if you're covering them, got to know your blog or various things, so that I'm guessing that sort of snowballs, and that's a good way for you to keep your ear to the ground.
It is, yeah. I suppose I'd say that what the blog used to be, probably Instagram is now. So I'm quite active on Instagram. I post something every day, and my posts are probably a bit more writerly than the average post. So I think it's quite a nice medium to have. You can have up to 2,200 characters.
You've covered a lot in terms of how many shows you visit. What does a typical day or week in the life of an art writer look like, if there is such a thing?
I guess last week was probably fairly typical. So over the weekend, I was writing a text for a show that's going to be opening, 2 artists, Mark Wright and Laura White. So I'd been to their studio the previous week and then wrote the text for that. What was that? A 1,600 word text. And then did other things that were nothing to do with art over the weekend. Then on Tuesday, I was on a Zoom call to another artist who I'm going to do a catalogue for. He's in the Lake District. Thursday and Friday, I was in London looking at shows. You see quite a lot of things if you're there for a whole day. So, for example, National Portrait Gallery, which has 2 major shows at the moment, and quite a lot of smaller shows, and going to openings as well. And I also had a studio visit on Friday afternoon with an artist who's going to be in my next show to choose what work she's going to have in it. So they were the main things. And that's fairly typical mix, I'd say. And I like getting out and about and seeing things basically because that's what I enjoy. It's what I do. I suppose just from my point of view, it's not as interesting to look at something sitting at home on screens. It is getting out about, seeing things physically, meeting people. And there's even something about the kind of travel between shows that kind of refreshes the brain in some way. If you're just stuck in front of the screen all the time, it doesn't have the same built-in refreshment.
So is there a particular type of art that you cover or that you like best, or do you cover all types?
I suppose I tend to cover contemporary art because that's what people want you to write about, and because new things are easier to write about in a sense. But I'm equally interested in older art. It's more because that's what seems to work than because I think it's better in any way. And I'm not at all worried about what the medium is. I think it's more about whether the medium's used well and whether something interesting there and whether it's done well. So I certainly cover all media equally. Although I suppose I would say that because painting is much the commonest thing still in galleries because it sells the best, I probably do tend to write about painting more than anything else. Also mention that I reckon probably 60% of the artists I show are women. And I think that probably reflects roughly the proportion of interesting artists who are women at the moment. So I find that sort of you naturally get a fair sort of balance in that respect. And that probably goes for writing about them as well as, I mean, I haven't counted this, but my guess, if you went back across my Instagram posts, you'd find that there are more women than men in them.
You obviously hear about a lot of exhibitions through your inbox. So people reaching out to you, sending you an email,
Yeah.
sending you a press release. What does a good introduction email and pitch look like for you?
So I think you need something short and punchy at the beginning, one paragraph, with a opportunity to look at more, but there should be a self-standing paragraph. It certainly helps to have a striking image at the top, something that draws you in, and you probably need to have it at the right sort of time as well. So suppose I'm pitching for a magazine. I need to know 2 months in advance for most of them. If I'm just planning to do something off my own bat, like for one of my columns, then a bit later is fine. Knowing about a show a month ahead is useful, and then being reminded for show when it opens is useful. So you don't want lots of things coming in. That gives a bad impression too. But it's probably sensible to have a long-term planning email, a kind of medium term, and an immediate one. That's probably what I'd say is useful. Because then also, if you've seen a long-term one, when the medium-term one comes in, you might think, oh, I remember that. And then it starts to connect for you. You're more likely to notice it.
As you say, sending a bit in advance can help. I've personally found that I wouldn't hear back from a journalist or a writer the first time, the second time, and then the third time they get back to me and go, yeah, great, it's on our blog. Thank you so much. Because
Yeah.
they're busy and their
Mm.
inboxes are full. It's worth not getting discouraged at the first email and thinking, oh, they must not be interested because they didn't reply. You're getting a lot of email.
That's certainly true. I'm getting hundreds of emails a day, and I'm quite likely to overlook some of them. And so, yes, if you repeat it, say 3 times, then there's more chance that something will be seen.
Thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch the full 1-hour interview and get top tips from an expert, then click the link below and join the Art Ladder mentoring program now. By joining the Art Ladder, you will get access to our full library of webinars with curators, collectors, critics, gallerists, and more. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this, and check out the description below for more free resources for artists.